Every monster on this map was real. Not magic, not imagination, real flesh, blood, and bone. People simply couldn't explain what they were looking at, so they did the next best thing. They told a story. Today we're going to travel the entire world and hunt down 7 of the most famous mythical beasts ever imagined. And for every single one, I promise you this, we will find a real, living animal hiding behind the legend. From the freezing black water off the coast of Norway, to the burning deserts of Mongolia, to the still, dark swamps of Australia. Almost every map of monsters turns out to be a map of misunderstood wildlife. You just have to know where to look. And there's a pattern you'll see again and again. A human meets a strange creature, or stumbles on its giant bones, feels afraid, and passes the story on. A few generations later, that animal has grown fangs, wings, and a taste for human flesh. Let's start hunting. And here's what makes this so wild. Some of these animals are still swimming and flying out there right now. Others have been extinct for millions of years. But every one of them pressed a fingerprint into human imagination that lasted for thousands of years. So grab the map. We're starting in the cold, dark north. Our first stop, Norway, the cold, black waters of the North Sea. For centuries, sailors told of an island that wasn't an island. You drop anchor on it, climb up, light a fire to cook, and slowly, the ground beneath you would begin to sink. Because it was never land at all. It was the back of a monster so vast, it could pull an entire ship down to the seafloor. They called it the Kraken. It haunted the very edges of old maps, a mountain of writhing arms rising from the deep, coiling around a wooden ship and dragging it, mast and all, beneath the waves while the crew screamed. But here's the twist. The Kraken is real, and we've finally caught it on camera. Meet the giant squid. For almost all of human history, no living person had ever seen one alive. Sailors only found the evidence. Torn off arms the length of a man, monstrous bodies washed up on the beach, and circular sucker scars gouged into the skin of sperm whales. Proof of battles no one survived to describe. So what is the giant squid actually like? It's a deep-sea hunter, eating fish and other squid, snatching prey with 2 long feeding tentacles. It isn't aggressive toward people. It lives far too deep to ever meet us. Its real enemy isn't a sailor at all. It's the sperm whale, the only animal big enough to hunt it in the dark. The giant squid grows up to about 13 meters long. That's over 40 feet, and it has an eye the size of a dinner plate. The largest eye of any animal that has ever lived, evolved to catch the faintest glow in the crushing black of the deep. So how does the legend stack up against the animal? The Kraken sinks ships and devours men. The giant squid hunts fish and smaller squid in the deep ocean and has never sunk anything in its life. Same nightmare silhouette, a completely different temper. A squid that enormous, glimpsed for just a few seconds beside a tiny boat in a storm, is all it takes to spark a legend that lasts 1,000 years. But our next creature didn't smash ships. It was far more dangerous. It sang to sailors and lured them gently to their deaths. Next stop, the warm coastlines of West Africa and the Caribbean. Sailors swore, again and again, that they saw beautiful women out in the water, half human, half fish. Mermaids. They would rise beside the ship, watch the men with strange, gentle eyes, lift a hand, and then slip silently back beneath the surface, leaving the whole crew shaken. In the stories, mermaids were enchanting and deadly, combing their long hair on the rocks, singing songs no man could resist, and luring lonely crews off course and onto the waves. But the real mermaid is one of the gentlest, sleepiest animals on the entire planet. This is a manatee and its close cousin, the dugong. They're slow, round, plant-eating, and utterly harmless. Now, picture a sailor, half-starved after months at sea, squinting in the heat. A manatee surfaces, cradling its baby against its chest, its tail flicking just like a human leg, and his exhausted brain quietly fills in the rest. A woman in the water. And the manatee? It's a pure vegetarian, grazing on up to 50 kilograms of seagrass every single day. It has no instinct to attack anything. It's so slow and calm that its biggest danger in the world is being hit by a boat. This is the gentle giant that an exhausted sailor turned into a deadly siren. And this isn't some wild guess. Scientists were so convinced of the link that they named this entire group of animal sirenia, after the deadly sirens of Greek myth. Even Christopher Columbus wrote in his logbook that he saw 3 mermaids near the coast, adding, a little disappointed, that they were not half as beautiful as they are painted. Legend versus reality. The mermaid lures men to drown in the sea. The manatee eats sea grass in the shallows and tries to avoid absolutely everyone. One is a cunning predator of sailors. The other weighs half a ton and wouldn't harm a single fish. So a clumsy, gentle sea cow became a beautiful, murderous woman. But our next monster wasn't born from a living animal at all. It was born from a skull, pulled straight out of the ground. The one-eyed giant. Now we sail to ancient Greece and the rocky island of Sicily. The Greeks told of the Cyclops, a towering, man-eating giant with a single, enormous eye set right in the middle of its forehead. In the Odyssey, the hero Odysseus and his men are trapped in its cave and eaten one by one, until they blind the giant and barely escape with their lives. A giant strong enough to hurl boulders at fleeing ships, who rolled a stone the size of a house across his cave mouth to seal his victims inside. But the real Cyclops was something the Greeks kept digging out of their own hillsides. Look closely at this skull. It belonged to a dwarf elephant, a small species that once lived on these Mediterranean islands. Now look at the very center of it, a single, gaping hole far bigger than any normal eye. To someone who had never seen an elephant in their life, that isn't a nose. That is one giant eye dead in the middle of the face. The dwarf elephant itself was a peaceful plant eater, shrunk down by island life to about the size of a large pony. It browsed quietly on leaves and shrubs, threatened absolutely no one, and went extinct long before the Greeks ever arrived, leaving behind only those strange, one-eyed skulls in the rock. That central hole is actually where the elephant's trunk attached, but the trunk is soft tissue. It rots away, leaving nothing behind on the fossil. So the message in the bone looks obvious. A skull twice the size of a human head, with a single eye socket in the middle. A giant, a Cyclops. Myth against bone. The Cyclops is a savage giant that hunts and eats lost travelers. The dwarf elephant was a shy, plant-eating animal, often smaller than a modern cow. The terrifying legend grew entirely from the leftovers it left in the ground. A single skull was enough to build a giant. But imagine what happens when people find not a skull, but an entire skeleton, beak, claws, and all, lying perfectly preserved in the open. You get the most famous guardian in the ancient world. We cross into Central Asia now, the Gobi Desert, along the old trade routes the ancient Greeks knew as Scythia. Traders came back along the Silk Road with stories of the Griffin, a beast with the powerful body of a lion, but the head, the wings, and the cruel hooked talons of an eagle. It didn't nest in trees. It nested on the ground, in the desert, fiercely guarding great hoards of gold. A four-legged monster with a sharp beak and folded wings, crouched low over a pile of treasure, ready to tear apart any prospector who dared come close. And in that exact desert, the ground is absolutely littered with the real Griffin. This is Protoceratops, a dinosaur about the size of a large dog. Its fossils are so common in the Gobi that early travelers would have found them constantly, often as complete skeletons lying right on the surface. It walks on 4 legs. It has a sharp parrot-like beak, and it has a large bony frill on its skull that, half buried in the sand, looks exactly like a pair of folded wings. Protoceratops was a plant eater too, snipping tough desert plants with that powerful beak. Only about the size of a sheep, it lived in herds. We've even found fossilized nests full of babies. In other words, a small, harmless, family-living dinosaur. Hardly the gold-hoarding killer of the legend. So put yourself in the sandals of a gold prospector 3,000 years ago, finding a 4-legged skeleton with a beak and wings lying in the dust. You have never heard the word dinosaur. You're not looking at extinct wildlife. You are looking, with your own eyes, at a dead griffin. Myth against fossil. The griffin guards mountains of gold and kills intruders on sight. Protoceratops ate low desert plants and had already been dead for around 80 million years. And the gold it supposedly guarded? Those same Gobi Hills really were streaked with gold dust. The story fit perfectly. Old bones make incredible monsters. But our next beast is the single most famous mythical animal on the entire planet. And the truth behind it is genuinely, surprisingly terrifying. We travel far to the north now, into the frozen plains of Siberia. The unicorn, a graceful, slender white horse with a single spiraled horn rising from its forehead. A symbol of purity so perfect that, according to legend, its horn could heal any sickness, purify poisoned water, and could only ever be tamed by the gentlest of hands. Delicate, magical, untouchable, the unicorn of fairy tales, royal tapestries, and children's bedrooms ever since. But the real unicorn was absolutely nothing like a gentle pony. Meet Elasmotherium, nicknamed the Siberian unicorn. This was a real animal that roamed these cold plains, and recent dating suggests it may have survived long enough to meet early modern humans. It wasn't a horse at all. It was a rhinoceros, a huge, shaggy, woolly rhino, carrying one single, gigantic horn in the center of its head. Elasmotherium was a grazer, head down in the cold grass, and it most likely used that giant horn for display and defense, not for healing or magic. 2 tons of muscle and shaggy fur. It was far closer to a woolly tank than a fairy tale pony. Gentle from a distance, maybe, but absolutely not something you wanted to corner. This thing weighed around 2 tons, and some scientists believe its single horn may have been nearly 1.5 meters long. And those famous, magical healing horns sold to kings across Europe for fortunes? Most of them weren't even from a unicorn. They were the long, spiraled tusks of the narwhal, a whale, quietly passed off as proof that unicorns were real. Dream versus reality. The unicorn is a delicate, magical horse you could lead with a ribbon. The Siberian unicorn was a 2-ton, armored rhinoceros that would have flattened you without slowing down. Same single horn, wildly different animal. So the prettiest, sweetest myth on Earth hides a charging beast. Now we cross the ocean to North America, where the entire sky once filled with the thunder of monstrous wings. Our next stop, North America. For many Native American nations, the sky belonged to the Thunderbird. This was a bird so impossibly vast that the beat of its wings was the rolling thunder you heard in a storm, and the flash from its eyes was the lightning itself splitting the sky. A sacred giant of the storm, powerful enough, in some stories, to snatch a whale clean out of the ocean, ruling the skies above the plains, the forests, and the mountains. And here's the thing, giant birds really did once rule those exact skies. Meet the Teratorns, and their living relative you can still see today, the condor. These were real, enormous birds of prey that soared over the Americas, and the early peoples of this land would have known them well. The Teratorns were hunters and scavengers of the open sky, with beaks built to swallow prey whole. They weren't gods, of course, but to a person standing on the open plains, a bird with a 7-meter wingspan circling silently overhead would feel like one. Raw power you could see, but never reach. The largest Teratorn ever found had a wingspan of up to around 7 meters, over 20 feet across. Just imagine being out on the open plains, and that shadow sliding silently over the grass toward you. Let's put that size in perspective. A city pigeon spans about 0.5 meter, a bald eagle around 2, the living Andean condor nearly 3, and the giant Teratorn up to 7. A bird that large, blotting out the sun, is all the proof anyone ever needed that the Thunderbird was real. Giant birds of prey were absolutely, undeniably real. Now, for our final stop, we travel to the one place on Earth where the monsters still feel like they're hiding just beneath the surface, Australia. Final stop, Australia. Aboriginal Australians warned, for tens of thousands of years, of the Bunyip, a creature that lurked in the swamps, the billabongs, and the still water holes of the outback. At night, it let out a deep, terrible roar across the water, and anyone foolish enough to wander too close after dark was dragged down into the cold, black depths. A shaggy, roaring, hulking water monster, the guardian and the terror of every quiet, dangerous pool in the entire landscape. And buried in the mud beneath those very same water holes lay the bones of the real Bunyip. This is Diprotodon, the largest marsupial that has ever existed. It was a giant relative of the modern wombat, but blown up to the size of a rhinoceros, and only died out tens of thousands of years ago, meaning the very first humans to reach Australia lived right alongside it. Diprotodon, for all its size, was a slow and harmless herbivore, browsing on leaves and grasses across ancient Australia. It had no roar and no taste for people at all, but long after it vanished, its enormous bones kept washing out of the mud, and the Bunyip was born from the simple, human fear of what those bones might be. It stood about 2 meters tall at the shoulder and weighed up to nearly 3 tons. And here's the part that seals it. Its enormous bones keep turning up in exactly the swamps, lake beds, and water holes where the Bunyip was always said to live and roar. Story against skeleton. The Bunyip is a roaring killer that drags people into the billabong. Diprotodon was a slow, peaceful, plant-eating giant, but its massive, strange bones, surfacing in the mud after a flood, were more than enough to keep that monster alive in people's minds for thousands of years. 7 beasts. 7 different corners of the map, and every single time, the same answer waiting underneath. So here's the recipe behind nearly every monster on Earth. Take one real animal, living or long dead, and turn to stone. Add human fear, the darkness of night, and a few hundred years of retelling. Stir well, and a squid becomes a kraken, a rhino becomes a unicorn, and a humble fossil becomes a dragon. A giant squid, a manatee, an elephant skull, a dinosaur, a woolly rhino, a giant bird, a giant wombat. 7 legends that shaped human history, and behind every single one, a real animal you can still go and study today. Because that's the real lesson on this map. Every culture, on every continent, looked at the natural world and saw monsters. Not because they were foolish, but because the real animals were genuinely astonishing. The map of myths is really a love letter to wildlife. So if the part of the world you call home has its own monster, drop it down in the comments. And I might just hunt down the real animal behind next. And if you want a brand new mystery solved every single week, subscribe right now. Because the real world is so much stranger than any